Hi, and welcome to Anside Cricket Shorts. On today's episode, the AIF XI. The First World War ended on the 11th of November 1918. At the time, there were over 150,000 Australian soldiers in France and England who needed to be repatriated home. At the insistence of Billy Hughes, Australian troops largely avoided the occupations of the defeated Axis powers, although some did participate in the occupations of the Rhineland and the Gallipoli Peninsula. Around 120 individuals decided to join the British Army to fight the Bolsheviks in the Russian Civil War. However, for most of the Australian survivors of World War I, ahead lay a long wait for a first to come, first to leave place on a ship back home. By May 1919, the last troops were out of France, leaving 70,000 Australian soldiers encamped on the Salisbury Plains in southern England, cricketing heartland. First-class cricket had been on hold since the outbreak of war in 1914, and so it was with great anticipation that the 1919 county season was organised. With so many Australians all together in one place, it was decided that they should put together a team to compete in first-class games against the newly reconstituted county sides. The first captain selected was Captain Charlie Kellaway. Charlie was a test batsman for Australia before the war and had showed himself a strong all-rounder, scoring 114 and taking 5 for 33 against South Africa in 1912. Kellaway had signed up in the middle of 1915 in the peak of excitement for the First World War. He was wounded in France in July 1916, receiving a gunshot wound to the right buttock. Although official reports home to his mother state that it was a mild wound and he was not seriously injured, he spent a while on the gravely wounded list, which lists the injury being to the forearm, before being returned to duty in March 1917. He was wounded again in May and September 1918, finally being placed on the invalid list where he would spend the remaining months of the war. Kellaway would return to the Test team and play for Australia until 1928, but for now he would last only 6 matches before having a falling out over the playing schedule and leaving the AIF XI whilst it was still in England. The next captain was Herbie Collins, future captain of the Australian Test team. What is significant about Herbie's captaincy was that he was elected by the players and was just a lance corporal in a team with several officers. Whilst not unusual for an Australian cricket team, it was unusual for a military unit to elect a leader, and went strongly against the grain of English cricket traditions of having an aristocratic gentleman as the team captain. Like Kellaway, Collins had enlisted in the enthusiasm following the landing at Gallipoli. He managed to make it through the war unscathed, although he spent some time in hospital in the months after the war with pneumonia. Also amongst the team were future Test players Hammy Love, Jack Gregory, Bert Oldfield, Nip Pellew and Johnny Taylor. The remaining players all played first-class cricket in Australia, so this was a strong side. Although all the players were still enlisted in active duty, full control of the team was given to the Australian Board of Control for International Cricket, and the team was awarded first-class status. Practical organisation for the tour fell to the Surrey County Cricket Club. The team started to tour around England in May, and within a month had received an invite to tour South Africa on their way home. The team refused. However, military officials, seeing the propaganda value of sending a team of athlete warriors to reinforce the newly constructed Gallipoli myth of Australian manhood, overruled them. Of their tour of England and Scotland, they played in 28 first-class matches, winning 12, including against Lancashire shown here, drawing 12 and suffering just 4 defeats. They were beaten by a Gentlemen of England side that included 7 English Test players, a South of England side that also had 7 Test players, although they won the second game against an even stronger South of England side. Their final loss was against C.I. Thornton's 11, only 2 of whom did not play Test cricket for England. It was only the loss against Derbyshire that was against a team not packed with international cricketers. The tour ended with a charity match against the odds at the oldest ground in cricket, Mitcham. In October, the Australians sailed on the HMAT Ascanius to South Africa. Although forced to attend by the military establishment, this was a for-profit tour in the grand tradition of Australian cricket tours. There was only one draw in the 6 South African games, with the AIF winning the rest. This included 2 comprehensive thrashings of the South African national team in what are considered unofficial tests. As an example of the strength of Australian masculinity, the tour was a resounding success. The only group who could defeat the Australian soldier at a game of cricket was the best cricketers the mother country could muster. Back home in Australia, with the players just wanting to return to their families after many years at war and another touring cricket, they were forced to play 3 more games against Victoria, Queensland and New South Wales, all of which they won. The war finally ended for the AIF XI in February 1920, and the team went their separate ways, although Collins, Gregory, Oldfield, Pellew and Taylor would come together again to form the core of the team that whitewashed the Ashes in 2021, and then retained them 3-0 in England in the Northern Summer of 1921. However, the true legacy of the AIF XI could be argued to be the reinforcement of the legend of Gallipoli, that of the race of athletes. See you next week.